The ink on the settlement papers was barely dry when the balance of power shifted forever. Inside the chilled air of the Manhattan Supreme Court, Gavin believed he had just pulled off the heist of the century, shedding a boring wife to keep his empire, his penthouse, and his freedom. He watched her walk out with a single suitcase, convinced she was stepping into oblivion. But outside on the wet pavement of Foley Square, the world stopped. A custom vehicle didn't just pull up, it waited. The woman who had just accepted a $0 settlement didn't hail a cab. She stepped into a world Gavin never knew she owned. This isn't just a divorce story. It is a masterclass in silent revenge. The silence in Judge Holloway's chambers was not peaceful. It was heavy, suffocating, and smelled faintly of old wood polish and stale coffee. Gavin Thorne. Wait, not Thorne. He hated that name. Gavin Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Dynamics, checked his Patek Philippe watch for the third time in a minute. The movement was sharp, aggressive. Every second spent in this room was a second he wasn't billing clients or finalizing the acquisition of the Kincaid Tech merger. He glanced across the mahogany table. Clara sat there. She looked remarkably ordinary. That was the problem, wasn't it? That had always been the problem. In a room full of sharks, Clara was a beige cardigan. She wore a simple charcoal dress that had seen better days, her hair pulled back in a severe, practical bun that highlighted the sharpness of her cheekbones but hid any trace of allure. She looked like a librarian prepared for a budget cut, not the wife of one of New York's most aggressive venture capitalists. Mr. Blackwood, the mediator, a tired man named Mr. Henderson, cleared his throat. We are at the final clause, Section 8.4, regarding spousal support and the dissolution of shared assets. Gavin leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table, invading the neutral space. He flashed a predator's smile, the same smile that had charmed investors at the chaotic gala in the Hamptons last summer. There are no shared assets, Henderson. We signed a prenup. And as for support, frankly, Clara has no expenses. She has no social circle. She has no brand. I'm willing to offer a one-time goodwill payment of $50,000, enough to get her settled in a modest apartment in Queens. It was an insult. It was less than Gavin spent on bottle service during a weekend in Miami. The lawyer beside Gavin, a man named Sterling. No, wait, his name was Arthur Penhaligon, the most vicious divorce attorney in the tri-state area, smirked. Penhaligon tapped his pen on the file. My client is being generous. Mrs. Blackwood brought zero capital into the marriage. She has generated zero income for the last 7 years. She has been, for all intents and purposes, a dependent. Gavin watched Clara. He wanted her to cry. He wanted her to scream, to throw a vase, to beg. That's what Jessica would have done. Jessica, with her red bottom heels and her fire engine red lips, waiting for him right now at the Pierre Hotel. Jessica was exciting. Jessica matched his energy. Clara didn't scream. She didn't even blink. She simply reached into her purse, a worn leather tote, not a Birkin, and pulled out a cheap ballpoint pen. I don't want the money, Clara said. Her voice was soft, melodic, but possessed a strange, flat resonance. It was the voice of someone who had already left the room hours ago. Gavin laughed, a short, barking sound. Excuse me, you don't want the money? Clara, be realistic. You haven't worked a day since we married. How do you plan to eat? Are you going to go back to waitressing? I said I don't want it, Gavin, she repeated, her eyes finally lifting to meet his. They were grey, startlingly clear, like the Hudson River in winter. I want a clean break, immediate dissolution, no waiting period. I sign, you sign, and we are strangers. Effective the moment we leave this building. Penhaligon, the lawyer, frowned. He leaned in, whispering urgently to Gavin, this is a trick. She might come back later, claiming duress. We should force her to take the check. Let her sign, Gavin hissed back, his ego swelling. If she's stupid enough to walk away with nothing, that's her problem. I want this done. Jessica is waiting. Gavin pushed the papers toward her. Fine, have it your way. You leave with what you came with. Nothing? Clara uncapped her pen. There was no hesitation in her hand. A distinct scratch, scratch echoed in the room as she signed Clara Hastings. She dropped the Blackwood name instantly. She stood up. The movement was fluid, surprisingly graceful for a woman Gavin had spent years calling clumsy and unambitious. It's done, Clara said to the mediator. Am I free to go? Technically, once I stamp this. Henderson looked bewildered, hesitating as he looked at the unsigned check Gavin was putting back in his pocket. Yes, you are divorced. Clara didn't say goodbye. She didn't look back at the man she had spent 7 years cooking for, cleaning up after, and nursing through panic attacks when his stocks tanked. She simply turned and walked toward the heavy oak doors. Clara! Gavin called out, compelled by a sudden, nasty urge to twist the knife one last time. She paused, hand on the brass knob. I hope you kept your old uniform, Gavin sneered, standing up and buttoning his $3,000 Brioni suit jacket. The rental market is brutal right now. If you get desperate, I'm sure Jessica could use a maid. She's moving in on Monday. It was a low blow, even for him. The mediator looked away, embarrassed. Clara turned her head slightly. For the first time, a small, ghost-like smile played on her lips. It wasn't a smile of sadness. It was the smile of someone watching a child play with a loaded gun. Goodbye, Gavin, she said. Good luck with the Kincaid merger. You're going to need it. Then she was gone. The hallway of the Supreme Court was bustling. Lawyers in cheap suits argued with weeping clients. Bailiffs shouted directions. It was the chaotic symphony of misery. Gavin burst out of the chambers a moment later, Penhaligon trailing him. Gavin felt lighter, invincible. He checked his phone. 3 texts from Jessica. Did you do it? Is the witch gone? Champagne is on ice, baby. He typed back. Done. She took nothing. Total victory. She's delusional, Gavin said to his lawyer as they strode towards the elevators. Did you see that face? She was in shock. She'll be calling me by tonight, begging for that 50 grand. We'll have a restraining order ready, Penhaligon chuckled. They reached the lobby and pushed through the revolving doors onto the steps of the courthouse. The weather had turned. The grey skies of the morning had opened up, and a steady, cold drizzle was falling on New York City. Traffic was gridlocked on Center Street. Horns blared. The smell of wet asphalt and exhaust fumes filled the air. Gavin looked around for his driver. He spotted his company car, a Mercedes S-Class, stuck in traffic 3 blocks down. Damn it, Gavin muttered. He looked to his left. Clara was standing there. She was standing near the curb, just outside the shelter of the courthouse overhang. The rain was beginning to dampen her hair, but she didn't seem to care. She wasn't looking for a taxi. She wasn't looking at her phone. She was just standing there, looking at the skyline, specifically at the towering glass needle of the one Vanderbilt building in the distance. Gavin felt a pang of pity, quickly replaced by disgust. She looked pathetic. He walked over, opening his large black umbrella, but he didn't hold it over her. He kept it over himself. So, Gavin said, his voice loud over the traffic. Reality setting in. No umbrella, no ride, no home. It's a cold world, Clara. Clara didn't look at him. She checked a slim silver watch on her wrist. The world is only cold if you don't know how to build the fire, Gavin. What does that even mean? He rolled his eyes. Look, I'm not a monster. Here. He fished into his wallet and pulled out $500, 5 crisp $100 bills. He held them out, letting the rain spot the paper. Take a cab to a motel. Don't say I never gave you anything. Clara looked at the money. Then she looked at the puddle of dirty water near Gavin's Italian leather shoes. Keep it, she said. You have overheads to worry about. The quarterly earnings report is due next week, isn't it? Gavin stiffened. How do you know about... And the Kincaid deal, she continued, her voice gaining a sudden, sharp authority he had never heard before. The technical schematics for the Kincaid interface. Did you ever figure out why the coding loop in the API was failing? Or were you waiting for me to fix it while you slept, like I did with the Anderson account? And the Vilos merger? Gavin froze. His face went pale. You didn't fix those. I fixed those. I'm the visionary. You're the face, Gavin, she said, finally turning to him. Her posture changed. The slump was gone. She stood tall, radiating a chilling elegance. You were the mannequin I dressed up to sell my designs, because the tech world doesn't like listening to quiet women. But the mannequin is naked now. You're crazy, Gavin stammered, stepping back. You're a housewife. You're nobody. Am I? At that exact moment, the chaotic noise of the New York traffic seemed to part. A low, powerful hum vibrated through the pavement. It wasn't the rattle of a taxi or the whine of a bus. It was the deep, purring growl of a 12-cylinder engine. Around the corner of Leonard Street, a car appeared. It was a Rolls-Royce Phantom extended wheelbase. But not just any Phantom. This one was painted in a deep, midnight blue, almost black, a custom shade known as Velvet Night. The chrome grille gleamed even in the rain. It moved through the traffic like a shark through a school of minnows. Other cars instinctively swerved to give it space. It had diplomatic flags on the fenders, not for a country, but bearing a crest with a silver falcon. Gavin's mouth fell open. He knew cars. He knew wealth. This wasn't just rich. This was nation-state rich. This was old money that buys the new money rich. The massive vehicle glided to a halt right in front of where Clara and Gavin stood. The sheer size of it dwarfed Gavin's waiting Mercedes down the block. The rear door didn't just open. A driver, a man who looked like he had been cut from granite, wearing a suit that cost more than Gavin's car, stepped out from the front. He ignored Gavin entirely. He ignored the rain. He walked around the back of the car, opened a large black umbrella with the same silver falcon crest, and held it over Clara. "Madam," the driver said. His accent was British, clipped and respectful. "I apologize for the 30-second delay. The traffic on Canal Street was unavoidable." "It's fine, Hugo," Clara said. Her voice had changed completely. It wasn't the soft mumble of the housewife anymore. It was cool, commanding. "Is he inside?" "Yes, madam. He has the files waiting." Gavin stood there, the $500 still in his hand, fluttering in the wind. He felt small. He felt confused. "Clara," Gavin whispered. Whose car is that?" Clara paused before stepping into the lush, cream leather interior. She looked back at Gavin one last time. "It's not whose car is it, Gavin," she said effortlessly. "It's mine." She slid into the seat. As the door began to close, Gavin saw a figure sitting in the other seat. A man, silver hair, sharp jawline, wearing a tuxedo even at 11 a.m. Gavin recognized him instantly from the covers of Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. It was Sebastian Hartwell, the recluse billionaire, the man who owned the telecommunications grid that Gavin's company rented bandwidth from, a man who was rumored to never take meetings with anyone worth less than $10 billion. Sebastian Hartwell looked at Gavin through the rain, raised a crystal tumbler of whiskey in a mocking toast, and then looked at Clara with a gaze of utter adoration. Thud. The heavy door sealed shut. The tinted window slid up, erasing Clara from Gavin's world. Hugo, the driver, folded the umbrella, got back in, and the massive Rolls-Royce pulled away, splashing dirty gutter water onto Gavin's Brioni trousers. Gavin stood alone in the rain, clutching his $500 as the realization of what he had just lost began to crash down on him like an avalanche. Inside the Rolls-Royce, the silence was absolute. The chaos of Manhattan, the honking horns, the shouting pedestrians, the relentless rain, vanished the moment the vacuum-sealed door clicked shut. The interior smelled of aged oak and expensive leather, a scent that was miles away from the lemon-scented cleaning spray Clara had used to scrub Gavin's floors for 7 years. She leaned back against the cream leather headrest and closed her eyes for a moment, letting out a breath she felt she had been holding since the day she said, "I do." "Champagne?" a deep voice asked. Clara opened her eyes. Sebastian Hartwell was watching her. Up close, the billionaire was even more imposing than on the magazine covers. He was in his late 50s, with silver hair swept back impeccably and eyes that were known in the business world for dissecting lies within seconds. But right now, those eyes held warmth. He was holding out a crystal flute of amber liquid. "It's a vintage Krug, 1998. I've been saving it for the day the ghost finally decided to materialize." Clara took the glass, her fingers steady. "Hello, Sebastian. It's been a long time." 3 years, Sebastian corrected, his voice grave. 3 years since we spoke in person at that fundraiser where Gavin made a fool of himself trying to explain blockchain to me. I watched you that night, Clara. I watched you whisper the answers in his ear, and I watched him take the credit. It was painful to witness. Clara took a sip of the champagne. It tasted like freedom. He needed the confidence. I thought if I built him up enough, he'd eventually learn to stand on his own. I was wrong. He didn't grow, he just swelled. And now? Sebastian asked, gesturing to the rain-streaked window where Gavin's figure was shrinking into the distance. Now, Clara said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming the voice of the strategist she truly was. Now I stop holding up the sky. Sebastian smiled, a sharp, dangerous expression. He tapped a button on the console, and a hidden compartment opened to reveal a high-tech, secure tablet. He handed it to her. "The market is waiting, Clara. Blackwood Dynamics stock is trading at an all-time high of $142 a share. Gavin is the golden boy of Wall Street because they think he wrote the Aurora algorithm. They think he's the one who solved the latency issues for the Kincaid merger." Clara took the tablet. Her fingers danced across the screen with a speed and precision that would have terrified Gavin. She wasn't just checking emails. She was accessing a secure, encrypted server, a server that she had built in the basement of the house Gavin just kicked her out of. "He thinks Aurora is autonomous," Clara said, her eyes scanning lines of complex code. "He thinks it runs on AI. He doesn't realize that Aurora requires a manual cryptographic key update every 72 hours, an update that I performed every Sunday night while he was sleeping off his hangover." Sebastian chuckled, shaking his head. "And when was the last update?" "Last Sunday," Clara said, "which means the encryption key expires in—" She checked her watch. 48 hours, right in the middle of his press conference, announcing the Kincaid acquisition. "And without the key?" "Without the key," Clara said calmly, "the entire security architecture of Blackwood Dynamics collapses. The data becomes gibberish. The client portfolio's locked down. It will look like a massive hack, but it's just the system asking for its master. And the master isn't Gavin." Sebastian leaned forward. "I have the board of directors at Hartwell Industries on standby. We are ready to launch our new subsidiary, Phoenix Tech. I want you as the CEO, Clara, not a consultant, not a silent partner. The face, the name, the power." Clara looked at the tablet, then at Sebastian. For years, she had hidden her brilliance. She had been the daughter of a disgraced mathematician, terrified of the spotlight because of what the media did to her father. She had used Gavin as a shield, hiding behind his loud personality, so she could work in the shadows. But the shield had turned into a sword, and it had cut her. "I'm done hiding, Sebastian," she said softly. "But I don't just want a job. I want equity. 51%. Sebastian didn't blink. He didn't hesitate. "Done." He extended a hand. Clara shook it. It was a handshake that would soon cost Gavin Blackwood everything he owned. "Driver," Sebastian said into the intercom, "take us to the tarmac. The jet is ready." "Where are we going?" Clara asked. "Paris," Sebastian replied. "Fashion Week is starting and you need a new wardrobe. If you're going to tear down an empire, my dear, you should be dressed for the occasion. Besides, There's a real estate portfolio in Monaco I think you should look at. It's time you saw what your genius has actually earned." As the car accelerated onto the highway, leaving the grey misery of New York behind, Clara Hastings deleted the wife contact profile from her phone. She then opened a terminal app and typed a single command line into the remote server of Blackwood Dynamics, initiate_countdown T-4800. While Clara was sipping vintage champagne at 30,000 feet, Gavin Blackwood was celebrating in a way that felt increasingly hollow. He was at Le Coucou, one of the most expensive French restaurants in Manhattan. Across from him sat Jessica. She was undeniably beautiful, blonde, statuesque, and wearing a red dress that cost more than Clara's entire wardrobe. But she was also loud. "Oh my God, Gavin, look at this ring!" Jessica shrieked, holding up her hand to admire the 3-carat diamond he had bought her an hour ago. "It is so shiny. We have to post this. Wait, let me get the lighting right." She spent the next 10 minutes rearranging the silverware and the candles to take a photo for Instagram. Gavin took a sip of his wine. He wanted to talk about the Kincaid deal. He wanted to brag about how he had crushed the union negotiations. He wanted someone to nod and say, "Yes, Gavin, the leverage ratio on that asset is brilliant." "Babe, listen," Gavin started. "Tomorrow is a huge day. The Kincaid merger is going through. It's going to double my net worth." "That's amazing," Jessica said, not looking up from her phone. "Does that mean we can get the house in the Hamptons, the one with the infinity pool? Oh, I need to tag you. What's your handle again?" Gavin sighed. He stopped himself. He didn't miss Clara. He missed having a sounding board. Clara was boring, he reminded himself. She didn't know how to have fun. She just read books and fiddled with her laptop. "Yeah, we can get the house," Gavin muttered. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Victor, his lead engineer. "Boss, we have a flag on the dashboard. System latency is up 2%. Gavin rolled his eyes. Engineers were always panicking over nothing. "Fix it, Victor. That's what I pay you for," he texted back. "I'm trying," came the reply. "But the admin credentials aren't working. Do you have the master key? The one C usually inputs?" Gavin stared at the phone. "C. For years, whenever there was a critical system error, Gavin would come home, complain to Clara, and she would say, 'Let me take a look. Maybe I can organize the files for you.' He would go to sleep, and the next morning, the problem was gone. He always assumed she just did some data entry or cleaned up the disk space. He never asked what C stood for in the system logs. He assumed it stood for central or core. There is no C, Gavin typed back angrily. I am the admin. Override it. I can't override the kernel, Gavin. It's hard-coded. If we don't put the key in by Monday morning, the firewall locks us out. Gavin, stop texting, Jessica pouted, reaching across the table. You're ruining the vibe. Shut up, Jessica, Gavin snapped. The table went silent. Jessica's eyes widened. Excuse me? I have to go, Gavin said, standing up and throwing his napkin on the table. Something's wrong at the office. The Blackwood Dynamics headquarters, Sunday, 2 a.m. The offices of Blackwood Dynamics were sleek, modern, and currently filled with the smell of fear. Gavin stormed out of the elevator on the 40th floor. He was still wearing his tuxedo from dinner, his tie undone. Talk to me, he barked, marching into the server room. Victor, a brilliant coder from MIT with thick glasses and a permanent nervous twitch, was sweating. He was surrounded by 4 other senior developers. They were all staring at the main monitor wall. Usually the wall displayed flowing streams of green data, the heartbeat of the company's algorithm. Tonight, the streams were turning amber. It's the Aurora protocol, sir, Victor said, his voice trembling. It's degrading. What do you mean, degrading? It's an algorithm. Math doesn't rot, Gavin shouted. This isn't just math, sir, Victor said, typing furiously. This code it's alive. It's the most sophisticated neural network I've ever seen. I always thought you wrote the core architecture, Gavin. I did, Gavin lied. I oversaw it. I gave the directives. Well, whoever wrote the syntax included a dead man's switch, Victor said. It's a security feature. The system checks for a specific digital signature every week to ensure the admin is still in control. If it doesn't get the signature, it assumes the system has been compromised or stolen. So bypass it. We can't, one of the other developers cried out. The encryption is polymorphic. Every time we try to hack it, it changes shape. It's genius. It's like playing chess against a grandmaster, and we're just pawns. Gavin stared at the screen. A countdown timer had appeared in the corner. System lockdown in 29, 0 o'clock. 29 hours. That was exactly when the Kincaid signing ceremony was scheduled to begin. Who has access? Gavin demanded. Check the logs. Who is User 0? Victor pulled up the user history. User 0 is the creator account. It's been active every Sunday night for 7 years from an IP address in... Victor paused. In your penthouse, sir. That was me, Gavin said quickly. I was working from home. Okay, Victor said, looking skeptical. Then you just need to type in the passphrase you used last week, and the week before, and every week for 7 years. Gavin froze. He looked at the blinking cursor on the screen. Passphrase required. He didn't know it. He had never known it. He remembered Sunday nights. He would be watching football or passing out after a gala. Clara would be sitting in the corner armchair with her laptop, a cup of tea on the side table. Just tidying up your inbox, Gavin, she would say. Just making sure the calendar is synced. She wasn't syncing calendars. She was piloting the ship. Try Blackwood 1, Gavin guessed. Access denied. Try money. Try success. Try Jessica. Access denied. Access denied. Access denied. Sir, Victor said quietly, if we get 3 more wrong attempts, the system wipes the database. The Kincaid merger data, the client funds, everything. It will all be deleted. Gavin felt the room spin. He grabbed the desk to steady himself. Call her, Gavin whispered. Call who, sir? Clara, Gavin said, his face draining of colour. My ex-wife. The housewife, Victor asked, confused. Why would we call her? Just call her, Gavin screamed, his voice cracking. He pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped it once before dialing. It rang, and rang, and rang. Then a click. Hello? It wasn't Clara. It was a generic voicemail message. You have reached the number of Clara Hastings. I am currently unavailable. If this is a business inquiry regarding Blackwood Dynamics, please contact the current CEO, Gavin Blackwood. I no longer consult for that entity. Consult? She had changed her voicemail. She knew. She knew this would happen, Gavin whispered, horror dawning on him. She didn't just leave. She took the keys. Sir, look at the screen, Victor said, pointing. On the main monitor, text began to scroll. It wasn't code. It was a message, typing itself out character by character, as if someone was remote accessing the terminal right now. Hello, Gavin. It seems you have a maintenance issue. My consulting fee has just gone up. Trace it, Gavin yelled. Find out where that signal is coming from, Victor typed rapidly. I'm tracing the packet. It's bouncing through servers in Singapore, London, Zurich. Wait. I have a terminal endpoint. Where is she? Gavin hissed. Is she in Queens? Is she at a motel? Victor looked up, his eyes wide behind his glasses. No, sir. The signal is originating from a private airfield in Teterboro, specifically from the encrypted Wi-Fi of a Gulfstream G650 jet owned by Sebastian Hartwell. Gavin dropped into a chair. Hartwell, the shark who ate companies like Gavin's for breakfast. Clara wasn't just gone. She had defected to the enemy, and she had taken his brain with her. The Gulfstream G650 sliced through the clouds above the Atlantic, leaving the turbulence of New York far behind. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was one of quiet, intense industry. Clara Hastings sat at a rosewood table, a tablet in one hand and a stylus in the other. She wasn't just coding. She was redesigning the entire user interface of the software she had built. For 7 years, she had designed Aurora to be user-friendly for Gavin. Simple, colorful, almost childish in its ease of use, because Gavin wasn't a technical founder. He was a salesman. Now, she was stripping away the training wheels. She was unchaining the code, allowing it to reach its full, terrifying potential. "You haven't slept," Sebastian noted. He was sitting across the aisle, reading a dossier on the European markets. "I can sleep when Gavin is bankrupt," Clara murmured, not looking up. "Right now, I'm optimizing. If we're going to launch Phoenix Tech, the platform needs to be flawless. It needs to be 10 years ahead of Blackwood Dynamics." "It already is," Sebastian said, "because Blackwood Dynamics is currently a hollow shell." The plane began its descent into Le Bourget Airport. Paris awaited. Upon landing, the contrast between Clara's old life and her new reality became stark. There was no waiting for luggage. A team was ready. They were whisked away in a convoy of black sedans to the Hôtel de Crillon, overlooking the Place de la Concorde. Her suite was larger than the entire house she had shared with Gavin. It was filled with white orchids and the scent of expensive beeswax. "You have a meeting at 2 p.m. with the European Venture Capital Board," Sebastian said, checking his watch. "But first, we have an appointment at Rue Cambon." "Chanel?" Clara asked, raising an eyebrow. "Sebastian, I don't need clothes. I need service." "You are a CEO now, Clara," Sebastian said, his voice firm but kind. "Appearance is a language. In your old life, you dressed to be invisible so Gavin could shine. Today, you dress to be seen. You dress to intimidate." He was right. Clara looked at herself in the gilded mirror. The grey cardigan, the sensible shoes, they were the uniform of a woman who apologized for existing. 2 hours later, Clara Hastings was gone. In her place stood a woman who looked like she could buy and sell the city. She wore a tailored black pantsuit by Saint Laurent that fit her like a second skin, sharp and structured. Her hair, previously hidden in a messy bun, was now cut into a sleek, asymmetrical bob that framed her jawline. Her lips were painted a deep crimson. She wore 4-inch stiletto heels that clicked against the marble floors with the rhythm of a ticking clock. When she walked into the private dining room for the investor meeting, the conversation stopped. 5 of Europe's most powerful tech investors were seated at the table. They had been expecting Sebastian Hartwell. They weren't expecting the striking woman who walked in with the energy of a lightning storm. "Gentlemen," Sebastian said, gesturing to Clara, "stop looking at me. I'm just the wallet. This is the brain. Meet Clara Hastings, the architect of the Aurora Protocol and the future CEO of Phoenix Tech." One of the investors, a skeptical German man named Herr Kroller, leaned back. "The Aurora Protocol. I thought that was Gavin Blackwood's creation." Clara didn't sit down. She walked to the head of the table, opened her laptop, and connected it to the main screen. "Gavin Blackwood," Clara said, her voice cool and projecting perfectly, "thinks Python is a type of snake. He couldn't write a Hello World script if his life depended on it. Gavin sold you the car. I built the engine." She hit a key. The screen exploded with data visualization, a complex rotating 3D map of the global data grid. "What you are seeing," Clara continued, "is the back end of the Kincaid interface. Specifically, the security flaws that I patched 3 years ago. Flaws that are currently reopening because the maintenance key hasn't been entered." The investors whispered among themselves. "And what happens?" Herr Kroller asked, sitting up straighter, "if the key isn't entered?" "Total system cascading failure," Clara said simply. "By tomorrow morning, Blackwood Dynamics will be unable to process a single transaction. Their client data will be frozen." "And your solution?" "My solution," Clara said, switching the slide to a logo of a silver falcon rising from the ashes, "is Phoenix. It is already live. It is stable. and it is ready to absorb the Kincaid infrastructure the moment Blackwood fails." The room was silent. Then Herr Kroller smiled. "How much funding do you need, Miss Hastings?" As the meeting concluded with handshakes and signed letters of intent totaling 200 million euros, Clara's phone buzzed. It was Gavin. Again. It was the 15th time he had called in the last hour. Clara looked at the phone, then at Sebastian. "Answer it," Sebastian said softly. "Let him hear the difference." Clara swiped the green button and put the phone to her ear. She didn't say hello. She just listened. "Clara, oh thank God!" Gavin's voice was frantic, pitched high with panic. "Where are you? I've been calling everyone." "Look, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about the court. I was stressed. I didn't mean those things." "What do you want, Gavin?" Clara asked. She was looking out the window at the Eiffel Tower, sipping sparkling water. "I need the password," Gavin screamed. "The system is locking down. We have 12 hours until the Kincaid press conference. Victor says the whole thing is going to crash. Just give me the code, Clara, please." "The code," Clara said, "is intellectual property. My intellectual property. We were married. It's community property. We signed a prenup, Gavin. Remember? What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. The code is in my head. Therefore, it's mine." "I'll pay you," Gavin pleaded. "I'll write you a check. 50,000? No, 100,000. I'll wire it right now." Clara laughed. It was a genuine, dark laugh. 100,000? Gavin, the Kincaid merger is worth $4 billion. You are asking me to save a $4 billion deal for the price of a used car. "What do you want?" Gavin sounded like he was crying. "Name your price." "I want 51% of Blackwood Dynamics," Clara said, "and a public admission that I wrote the code, in writing, notarized." "Are you insane?" Gavin roared. 51%. That's my company. I built this brand." "Then you can fix the code yourself," Clara said. "Good luck with the press conference, Gavin. I hear the hors d'oeuvres at the plaza are lovely this time of year." She hung up. Sebastian was watching her with a look of impressed terror. "Remind me never to cross you." Clara picked up her purse. He won't take the deal. His ego is too big. He thinks he can bluff his way through it. "And can he?" "No," Clara said, her eyes flashing. "He's going to crash and burn, and we're going to be in the front row to watch it." New York City was buzzing. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel had been transformed into a tech wonderland. Blue lasers cut through the air, and massive LED screens displayed the Blackwood Dynamics logo, pulsing in time with upbeat electronic music. It was the event of the season, the official signing of the Kincaid merger. Every major tech journalist was there. Wall Street analysts were present. Even the mayor was in the front row. Backstage, Gavin Blackwood was vomiting into a trash can. "Get a grip, Gavin," Penhaligon, his lawyer, hissed, handing him a bottle of water. "You look like a ghost." "It's not working," Gavin gasped, wiping his mouth. "Victor couldn't crack it. We're running a simulation, a video recording of the interface. If anyone asks for a live demo, we're dead." "No one asks for live demos anymore," Penhaligon assured him. "Just go out there, smile, flash those teeth, and sign the papers. Once the ink is dry, we have Kincaid's money. We can hire 1,000 coders to fix the system later. But the clients? Screw the clients for now. Just survive the next hour." Jessica walked in. She was wearing a white dress that looked suspiciously like a wedding gown. "Babe, the lighting out there is perfect. I told the photographer to get my good side when you signed the deal. Oh, and I invited Vogue." Gavin looked at her with pure hatred. "Jessica, not now." "Mr. Blackwood," a stage manager said, poking his head in. "It's time. Mr. Kincaid is on stage." Gavin straightened his tie. He slapped his own cheeks to bring some color back. "Fake it till you make it," he told himself. "I am Gavin Blackwood. I am a visionary." He walked out onto the stage, Thunderous applause erupted. Gavin waved, flashing his trademark smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. He shook hands with Robert Kincaid, the CEO of the rival firm they were acquiring. "Great day, Gavin," Kincaid said, clapping him on the back. "Ready to integrate our systems? My team is eager to see this Aurora engine in action." "Absolutely," Gavin sweated. It's going to be seamless." Gavin took the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice booming over the speakers, "today marks the dawn of a new era. Blackwood Dynamics is not just acquiring a company. We are acquiring the future." He clicked a button on the remote. The screen behind him shifted to a sleek graphic. "The Aurora Protocol," Gavin recited the script Clara had written for him years ago, "is the first self-sustaining financial algorithm. It thinks, it learns, it protects." "Show us," a journalist from TechCrunch shouted from the crowd. "Let's see the real-time processing." Gavin froze. Well, due to security protocols. "Come on, Gavin," Robert Kincaid laughed. "I want to see my stock portfolio transfer in real time. Show them the magic." Gavin looked at Victor, who was manning the console in the tech pit. Victor shook his head slightly. "Don't do it." But the crowd was chanting, "Demo! Demo! Demo!" Gavin had no choice. If he refused, the stock would tank. He had to pray the video simulation fooled them. "Fine," Gavin said, forcing a laugh. "Victor, fire up the live feed." Victor reluctantly hit a key. The massive screen behind Gavin flickered. The slick graphics of the presentation disappeared. In their place, a black terminal window appeared. Code began to scroll. Green text. It looked impressive. The crowd quieted. "As you can see," Gavin improvised, "the data is flowing." Suddenly the green text turned red. A loud, jarring alarm sound echoed through the ballroom speakers. "System error. Integrity compromised. Administrative key missing. Security shutdown imminent." Gavin tapped the podium. "Just a minor glitch. Technical difficulties. Unauthorized user detected. Initiating data purge." "Turn it off!" Gavin screamed at Victor. "Cut the feed!" Victor was frantically typing. But the screen wouldn't change. Then the text cleared. A single message appeared in massive, bold white letters, 10 feet high, for the entire world to see. "System locked by creator. Reason, unpaid labor. Creator status, gone." The room erupted in gasps. Cameras flashed blindingly. "What is this?" Robert Kincaid demanded, stepping away from Gavin. "What does that mean?" "It's a hack," Gavin yelled into the microphone. "We are being hacked by terrorists." Suddenly the audio in the room cut out, the feedback whined, and then a new sound filled the room. It wasn't an alarm. It was the sound of a video call connecting. The massive screen on stage shifted again. The red text vanished. A crystal-clear, high-definition video feed appeared. It showed a woman sitting in a sunlit office with the Eiffel Tower clearly visible in the window behind her. She looked regal, terrifyingly composed, and utterly powerful. Gavin's knees buckled. "Hello, Gavin," Clara said from the screen. Her voice was amplified through the ballroom, crisp and commanding. A hush fell over the crowd. "Clara?" Gavin whispered into his dead mic. "Who is that?" Kincaid asked loudly. "My name is Clara Hastings," she said, addressing the audience, not Gavin. "For 7 years, I was the lead architect and sole developer of the Blackwood Aurora Protocol. I also happen to be Gavin's wife." Murmurs of shock rippled through the room. "The system you are trying to buy, Mr. Kincaid," Clara continued, "is currently a paperweight. It requires a cryptographic key that only I possess. And since Gavin decided to divorce me and leave me with 0 assets, claiming I contributed nothing, I decided to take my contribution with me." "This is slander!" Penhaligon shouted from the side of the stage. "Cut the feed!" "You can't cut the feed," Clara said calmly. "I have root access. I own the servers." She leaned into the camera. "Gavin, you told the court I was unskilled. You told the world you were the visionary. So fix it. Go ahead. Type in the code to stop the data purge. You have 60 seconds before the client database is erased permanently. Gavin stared at the keyboard on the podium. He stared at the screen. He was weeping openly now. I can't, he sobbed. I don't know it. Exactly, Clara said. She turned her gaze to Robert Kincaid. Mr. Kincaid, my apologies for the theatrics. But if you are interested in a system that actually works, one that is already patched, secure, and ready to deploy, my new company, Phoenix Tech, would be happy to discuss a partnership. I'm sending the contract to your phone. Now. Robert Kincaid looked at his phone. It buzzed. He looked at the contract. Then he looked at Gavin, who was a crumbling mess on the floor. Kincaid walked over to the microphone. The deal with Blackwood Dynamics is terminated, effective immediately, Kincaid announced. I don't do business with frauds. He looked up at the screen. Miss Hastings, can we talk? I'll have my jet ready, Clara said. See you in Paris. The screen went black. For a moment, there was total silence. Then the chaos began. The stock price of Blackwood Dynamics, projected on the side tickers, began to freefall. It dropped from $142 to $80, to $40, to $12 in a matter of seconds. Gavin Blackwood sat on the stage of the Plaza Hotel, surrounded by the ruins of his life, while Jessica screamed at him that he had ruined her Instagram aesthetic. 6 months had passed since the catastrophe at the Plaza Hotel. The winter snow had melted, giving way to a humid New York summer, but for Gavin Blackwood, the world had remained cold and unforgiving. He sat at a small, sticky table in a coffee shop in Jersey City, staring at the screen of his cracked iPhone. The headline on the Wall Street Journal app was bold and unforgiving. Phoenix Tech acquires assets of defunct Blackwood Dynamics for pennies on the dollar. Gavin swiped the screen. There was a photo of the signing ceremony. There she was, Clara. She didn't look like the woman who used to coupon clip for groceries. She was wearing a cream-colored Dior suit, her hair gleaming under the camera flashes. Standing next to her, looking at her with undeniable pride, was Sebastian Hartwell. They weren't just partners in business. The ring on Clara's finger, a massive sapphire, suggested they were partners in everything. Gavin looked down at his own hand. The tan line where his wedding band used to be had faded. Jessica was long gone. She had left him exactly 3 hours after his credit cards were declined at the hotel, taking the engagement ring and his dog with her. He had lost the penthouse. He had lost the car. He was currently living in a studio apartment above a laundromat, fighting 3 different fraud lawsuits. He glanced out the window. Across the river, in Manhattan, the old Blackwood Dynamics building, his building, was being rebranded. He knew she would be there today. The press release said the new CEO would be inspecting the premises at noon. Driven by a masochistic need for closure, or perhaps a delusion that he could still talk his way out of this, Gavin took the PATH train into the city. He stood outside the glass skyscraper that used to bear his name. Workers were already removing the heavy brass letters B and L from the facade. A crowd had gathered. Security guards were holding back paparazzi. And then it arrived. The midnight blue Rolls-Royce Phantom. The crowd surged forward. Gavin was pushed against the velvet rope. The door opened, and Hugo, the granite-faced driver, stepped out to open the rear door. Clara stepped onto the sidewalk. She radiated an aura of calm power that was almost blinding. She stopped to speak to a few reporters, her voice confident and clear. "Clara!" The shout tore from Gavin's throat before he could stop it. The security guards moved instantly to intercept the disheveled man in the cheap suit, but Clara held up a hand. She turned. Her grey eyes locked onto him. There was no anger in them. There was no hate. There was something far worse. Indifference. She whispered something to Sebastian, who stayed in the car, watching with a protective glare. Clara walked over to the barricade where Gavin stood. "Hello, Gavin," she said. "Clara," Gavin stammered. He tried to straighten his jacket, but he knew he looked pathetic. I just wanted to say congratulations." "Thank you," she replied politely. I also wanted to ask—" Gavin swallowed hard, his pride completely gone. "The lawsuits. Kincaid is suing me for fraud. The SEC is investigating. If you just gave a statement saying that I helped design the Aurora interface, even a little bit, it might call off the dogs. I could avoid jail time." Clara looked at him, tilting her head slightly. "But you didn't design it, Gavin. You didn't write a single line of code." "I know. But we were married," Gavin pleaded, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Doesn't that count for anything? 7 years, Clara. I'm drowning here. Do you really want to see me destroyed?" Clara sighed, a soft sound that was almost sad. "Gavin, look at me." He looked up. "I didn't destroy you," she said softly. "You destroyed yourself. You built a life on a foundation of lies and used me as the cement. When I walked away, the building didn't fall because I pushed it. It fell because gravity exists." "I can change," Gavin said, tears pricking his eyes. "I can learn. I can work for you. I know the clients. Give me an entry-level job. Anything." Clara reached into her purse. For a second, Gavin thought she was going to pull out a checkbook. Instead, she pulled out a business card. It wasn't for Phoenix Tech. "This is the number for a recruiter I know," she said, handing it to him. "He specializes in manual labor and retail management. It's honest work, Gavin. It's hard work. It pays $18 an hour." Gavin stared at the card. "You want me to work retail?" "It's how I started," Clara said. "Before I built an empire, I waited tables to put you through business school. Maybe it's time you learned what it feels like to stand on your own 2 feet. She turned away. "Clara," he called out one last time. "Do you hate me?" She paused, looking back over her shoulder. The sunlight caught the sapphire on her finger. "I don't think about you at all," she said. She walked back to the Rolls-Royce. Sebastian stepped out, took her hand, and kissed her cheek. They got into the car together. The heavy door slammed shut, thud, sealing them into their world of success and silence. Gavin Blackwood watched as the car merged into traffic and disappeared into the canyon of the city. He stood alone on the pavement, clutching the card for the recruiter, as the workers above him finally ripped the name Blackwood off the building, letting the heavy metal letters crash into the dumpster below. The story of Clara and Gavin is a brutal reminder that the people we underestimate are often the ones holding up our sky. Gavin made the fatal mistake of confusing silence with weakness and kindness with stupidity. He believed that because Clara was quiet, she had nothing to say. Because she was supportive, she had no ambition. But in the end, the most dangerous person in the room is never the one shouting about their success. It is the one who quietly listens, learns, and holds the keys to the kingdom. Clara didn't need to scream to win. She simply took back what was hers and let the vacuum of her absence do the rest. True power isn't about noise. It's about competence. And sometimes the loudest sound in the world is the sound of a strong woman walking away. What did you think of Clara's revenge? Was she too harsh, or did Gavin get exactly what he deserved? I want to know what you would have done in her shoes. Would you have helped him in the end, or walked away just like she did? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of silent justice and rising from the ashes, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.